What's up, everyone? On our plate this week, should you be worried that Final Fantasy Rebirth was not at the PlayStation Showcase? Street Fighter 6 breaks records. It's insane. We find out why League Championship Series was delayed. Netflix is getting serious about making AAA games. And should you play Street Fighter 6, even though you haven't played the last installment? All these and more on Season 7, Episode 22 of Press X to start Gamers Digest. What's up, everyone? I'm your host, DJ, aka Sexy Bad Choices, aka I know it sounds a little funny, aka Street Fighter 6. We're going to talk about that. I am joined by
Oh yeah, it's me, Haver.
awesome. Now you know who we are. Yes, this is a cozy two. Sean couldn't make it because he had no idea when the Spider-Man movie ended, so he has to live with some mistakes. Press X Star Gamers Digest is a video podcast that condenses the most important gaming news from this past week into an hour-long meal just for you. We are live on YouTube every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What's up? Don't forget, you can support us by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and hit the notification bell. If you are listening, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or the podcast service you are currently tuned in on. If you want to join our conversations, you can by joining our Discord at pressx2start.com/Discord. All right. With that being said and all that stuff out the way, we can get into the gaming news. Okay. I'm taking this one, right? The first one? Yeah. Cool. All right. Number one. This comes from Ethan Gotch from Kotaku. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth devs promise it is still on track despite missing the PS5 showcase. So, this was one of the things that, again, the PlayStation showcase, not the best. And there was a lot of games that a lot of people was expecting. They were missing, still missing. We still have no idea where they're going to come. One of those games, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So the devs pretty much made a tweet saying that development is progressing smoothly and according to plan. We are currently working on nailing down a release date for the game. So the last time they showed this game, they gave a release date of next winter, but that was in context of showing last year, so 2022. So that should be this winter, but winter is very much so a loaded term because it starts in December, like 21st, and then it goes into next year. So they kind of have themselves a cushion to possibly put this out early next year and also still say, like, oh, yeah, it's going to come this year. So it's kind of a weird thing where they don't know exactly. We don't know when this game's going to come out. Um, how do you feel about this, Avery? Because I have some thoughts.
I have nothing to say. I
Oh,
wasn't expecting this to be at the showcase to begin with. So
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So I feel like I just don't know if it's necessary that they need to say like we're nailing down a release date if they're not really trying to get it out this year. Because they're going to have Final Fantasy 16, and that is shaping up to be a really good game that is going to do very well. So it's like, what's the rush of putting out two Final Fantasy games in 1 year? So in my mind, like I feel like this game is going to come out for the fact that they are, reassuring the fan base that like, oh yeah, like everything is going well, like you don't have to worry. So it feels weird. Like I feel like that tweet wouldn't be necessary if the plan was for that game to come out next year. Any thoughts?
I always assumed it was coming out next year anyway.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Number two. This is Street Fighter 6 news. Street Fighter 6 has already broken a major Steam fighting game record. This comes from, let me check the name, Logan Plant from IGN. So this is cool. again, these are Steam numbers. Give and take. There is what it is. But right now, what it is, Street Fighter 6 has hit 66 plus thousand concurrent users, concurrent players. And like that's insane for literally the first day. Um, right below that, we have Mortal Kombat 11, which is at 35 plus thousand users. Tekken 7 is at 18, Mortal Kombat X at 15, Street Fighter 5 at 14. So this is really cool. This is really good news. Street Fighter 6 is a great fighter. It was shaping up to be a great fighter. It is built off Street Fighter, which a lot of people play. It's a very popular fighting game. So these numbers aren't necessarily surprising for me, especially with how good Street Fighter 6 is. I'll have more to talk about that in our what we've been playing section. So yeah. Avery, did you know Street Fighter 6 for you?
No.
Okay. But yeah, it's just good to see that this game is doing well, and it's very much so deservingly so. I just can't wait to see what happens for Mortal Kombat 1 and possibly Tekken 8 if that comes out this year. So this year is shaping up to be a really strong year for fighters and just a really strong year for games in general. All right, number 3. It's your go, Avery.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is a story from GamesIndustry.biz. This is from Mary DeLisandre. League Championship Series delayed following conflict between Riot and Players Association. So this is an esports story, so everyone, if you don't give a shit about esports, I don't know, dip for about 5 minutes.
No. Still stay, okay?
I mean, we're live, so dipping for 5 minutes would be the story being skipped, and if they're listening to the VOD, then they can just skip 5 minutes. Either or.
True.
Yeah. So the LCS is the league of league's esports circuit. It is Riot's official sanctioned esports circuit. It's how would I say this? Recently, okay, I've talked about them a couple of times during the show how esports is in a weird spot, and that esports is like NFTs and crypto in that they are speculative money burns, where like it's really really hard to make profit from it. Some people do, and a lot of people invest in it understanding that it will make money eventually. And the salaries of League of Legends players in particular are somewhere on average upper than 40K a month. So esports teams spend a lot of money on League of Legends teams in particular, and in one of these stipulations in Riot's official agreement with esports organizations is that they also have to have an academy team to fill in the NACL, which is the North American Challengers League for League of Legends, which is essentially their tier 2, their minor leagues. So every org who was in the scene in their franchising league had to have a tier 1 team where they're paying upwards of 40K a month, and they also had to have a challengers team where they have to spend, let's just say, conveniently upwards between 10 a month. The idea of the NACL is that it's supposed to be a farm league. It's supposed to be where young talent is found and is molded and is able to move up to the higher ends. Unfortunately, I think I mentioned it before, NA League of Legends is dead in that NA has never won. League of Legends is going on, their esports is going on over 8 to 10 years now, and North America has never won a title. In fact, the closest we ever got was like semifinals, but we've never won an international tournament. So it's like NA teams are building talent by poaching it from other areas. So you get a lot of European imports, a lot of Korean and Chinese imports playing North American Valor. North American League of Legends. All of that to say, it's the tier 2, the minor leagues aren't doing their job as being a way to find talent. It's essentially becoming a retiring ground for players who want to keep getting paid after they failed out of tier 1, the major leagues, and the orgs trying to save money went to Riot and said, "Hey, we don't want to have these teams anymore. Like, it's way too much money, and we're making zero money from it. You are making zero money from it. We should probably get rid of this." And Riot, surprisingly, said, "I sure." So they removed the stipulation that all these organizations have to have a minor league team. The unfortunate thing is they removed that stipulation a week or two before the minor leagues are supposed to start. So about 70 people lost their jobs abruptly as all the orgs essentially just pulled out at once, leaving the entire Tier 2 scene in shambles. When the LCS was started, Riot helped foster a players' union in order to protect players. Wisdom is that they wanted this to be all advantage of good faith, but they never wanted it to actually have any information. So the players of the players' union saw that 70 members of their organization were just laid off essentially and said, hey, yo, fuck this. They organized, came to Riot with a list of demands and said, hey, if you don't meet those demands, we're going to strike. They went on strike. So I'm pretty sure this is the first real esports or esports related union versus union strike. Riot in response said, this strike also affects the major leagues. This is not just the minor leagues. It is the major league players saying what happened to the minor leagues is not what we're going to stand for and striking.
That's good, huh?
Yeah, well, we'll get there. So Riot said that, okay, if you're going to do that, we still need the LCS is still important to us, so we're going to remove all the restrictions for orgs to sign players. So essentially, they're like, hey, if you are a gold 3 player, you can play now in the league scene if you want, because we just want this tournament to go out. The players union was strong enough to say no scabs, and the orgs aren't able to get any. The orgs weren't able to get any replacement talent. And
so
this is
what is a scab? Because I've seen that term before, and
I don't
know what that means.
I don't exactly know what the exact origin of it, but essentially a scab is a person who walks over, ignores a picket line to get the bag. Essentially, when a person vacates their job as a union, the actual the job is still there, and a scab is someone who will take money to fulfill that job and undermine the actual collective bargaining of a union or something like that.
So are they like outside the union?
Yes.
Is that what that is? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So essentially, for example, like if you and your job unionized and walked out because you were like upset about something the organization was doing, a scab will be the person that who's not in your union, who your job then hires to do your old work.
Gotcha. Okay.
Probably, yeah, and probably because of desperation, they're probably gonna get paid more. So it sucks. So they couldn't find any scabs. The players are on strike. The current LCS was supposed to start for the spring split. Or the summer split? Seasons are weird. The current split, the previous Thursday, Riot then came out and said, "Okay, we are going to postpone for 2 weeks our League of Legends activity, our LCS activities. However, if this strike doesn't end in 2 weeks, we are canceling the entire split." And North America won't get a spot at Worlds.
Wow.
So they're in an interesting place right now because from a union perspective, they're doing the right thing for the players and everything like this. But Riot controls the entire. Like Riot doesn't need the LCS,
right?
With most esports are just marketing for their respective games. So like League of Legends is like over 10 years now. They don't need the LCS in order to market themselves. And as a direct result, I think Riot is prepared and willing to just cancel the LCS. They have Valorant; it's popping off. Focus all that energy on Valorant and the rest of the League of Legends ecosystem, and just let NA die. Because what's probably going to happen is, if this happens, I think most players on signed contracts at Tier 1 orgs are also going to lose their jobs. Because they're going to be getting paid to do nothing for about 6 or 7 months. And so this is the most interesting thing I've seen when it comes to esports. And hence why I brought the story up. Whether it gets resolved, I don't know. I also don't know in whose favor it's going to get in resolved for. I do know the
Right.
players have absolutely no power in this situation. It will only be out of like weird corporate goodness that Riot acquiesces to their demands, which aren't a lot, but does require Riot to essentially put more money and energy than they're willing to do, especially in the minor leagues of League of Legends.
Yeah, just that sucks when I mean, yeah, because like the union is doing what it's supposed to do, fighting for the players, but then Riot is just looking at the bottom line, like we're fine here. We don't really need to bend to your will. That sucks. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what's going to happen with that going forward. Our next story is from VGC. This is from Tom Ivan. Former God of War art director joins Netflix to work on an original AAA game. So Raf Grassetti, who was one of the art directors at Sony Santa Monica, you might know him from his various Twitter posts of high detail 3D renders of various comic book and cartoon characters as
Hmm.
if they were in a video game. He recently left Sony Santa Monica. God of War Ragnarok has already come out. Whatever the studio is doing, it's probably not God of War related in the immediate. Which probably is going to, what I'm assuming is going to be the Cory Barlog original game is what's up on deck next. So like, he's worked on the last couple of games. I think he's looking for a new adventure, and
Yes.
he's recently joined Netflix Games, which makes it interesting. Is the caliber of art director that he is, as far as I'm aware of, is not indicative to small indie games. It's indicative to big AAA experiences. So this is
Yeah.
very much a thing of, oh, Netflix is actually pretty serious about making games. And then to add another interesting wrinkle to this, remember when fucking night was it Oxenfree 2 was announced on
Hmm.
every platform but
Yep.
Xbox? This
Yep.
is going to be an interesting thing if they're now making AAA games and they actually see Game Pass and Xbox in its current state as like actual competitors. Then whatever game this is going to be of whatever quality it is going to be is just not, I believe, not coming to Xbox unless Microsoft makes some insane deals.
Yeah, that's a good connection though. But yeah, like seeing him leave Santa Monica has been like kind of crazy to me because I've followed him on IG from like at this point years. And like all of his stuff is just so just inspirational. It's just he just creates great art. So to see him join Netflix, like that got me pretty excited for whatever Netflix is creating. And like I didn't think I would say those words. I just didn't think that was gonna be a thing. So it's wild that they are being this serious. I just really hope like his talent doesn't go to waste and they don't end up pulling the Amazon where it's just like, yeah, we're
Well,
gonna make this like
I very much think this is going to be a Google Amazon, well, more of a Google than Amazon because Amazon's still
oh that's
making
true. Yeah,
games
yeah, yeah. I
in
was
that.
thinking Google, but I said
Because
Amazon.
if they're making AAA games, that means they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've said this multiple times. I've gotten into arguments about this podcast. Netflix doesn't really make money. They don't.
Yeah.
They're a red company where a lot of their money comes from people further them drawing further investment to get into the black because they have to spend all of their money to maintain the level of content that they put out, and their content is very quantity over quality. I will say for every
Mhm.
one Stranger Things you get 10 you get 10 other shows that only people who are like perpetually online Netflix will watch because everyone else looks at them and says, "Oh, this doesn't look like a real show. This looks like a show that you would see on a television show, like as a fake Netflix show on television." That
Yeah.
makes
It
sense.
looks like a
That's
filler TV show.
yeah, yeah. So like, my big concern is that okay, you're gonna spend. This is not a game. This game he's going to be working on, we're not going to see this for 4 to 5 years. Is Netflix willing to sit there and burn money for 4 to 5 years on a product that we've seen with Oxenfree that they're selling games. So like they're
Yeah.
actually acting as a publisher and they're selling it, and they're not just putting all the games on the net. They're not game passing it. They're actually trying to sell these games. So I'm like, are they willing to make this risk? And how many other games are they willing to are they working on in this manner?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think common sense, and I shouldn't use common sense when we're talking about like giant corporations like this, but like common sense would lead you to believe that if you just watch the industry for we'll just say for 3 years, right? There's enough examples. We'll say 4 years. There's enough examples to enlighten you that like if we're gonna make a game, we need to be serious about this because if we're not serious about this, we are gonna lose a lot of money. And as you said, like Netflix is aware that they aren't necessarily making money. So to take a step into the gaming industry like this in a way of making a AAA game in the generation that we are, to know like the level of money, the level of detail, the level of polish that we expect from a AAA game, it is kind of weird and like, what are you doing with your money kind of question to Netflix if they take these steps and just completely fumble the bag. I'm not expecting just their first game to be like a 9 out of 10. I'm hoping like an 8 out of 10. I think that would be pretty good for whatever the studio's like first time AAA game. But yeah, it's just I was very cautious with their first like announcement about the whole AAA thing, but then seeing them pull rap, it's like, okay, all right, we'll see. We'll see what you really got going on here if like you guys are being this serious. So I
Okay,
don't know.
so I've done some minor research because I'm still in the okay. Businesses make these verticals not because they're passionate about this.
Well, yeah, they
They
see
make these
money.
verticals. They see money and they need growth. So this is them Netflix trying to create another avenue to create growth. My thing is at a corporate level, the person saying that doesn't actually give a shit about games really in that ecosystem. So like who's actually in charge? It's a man named Robert Barrera who was actually previously at PlayStation for 11 years, and he served as the director of strategy and business planning thing on PlayStation Now, which seems to indicate to me that he
Oh,
got this job because of his relationship with digital streaming, which
yeah,
tells me that Netflix is at some point going to try and have their own X Cloud,
yeah.
PlayStation Now,
Streaming
Amazon Luna,
service.
Google streaming
Yeah,
is part of this, and not
I
just
mean
sell games.
yeah, that makes sense for the Netflix platform. Like, I I guess it would be like an addition to your Netflix subscription to get this game thing. But then, so like, even if that is the direction, that gets kind of weird because, like, all right, well, you can't just start this whole streaming platform with two games. Like, you're gonna have to have more games than that. So, like, that gets
Which leads
yeah,
to either Netflix becoming just another of these subscription game services. Well, here's 50 something odd games, and we're essentially becoming Game Pass, essentially with the
right.
role, or more realistically, like making it a small increase, like $1 to your like Netflix subscription, and just having it be a growing thing until they have like a
Mm,
stable of games where they're like, okay, now we can feasibly charge for a long thing because now we have a long stable of first party things that we can do.
that's a good point too. Yeah, yeah. All right. Before we jump into some Kotek news, because that's always fun. Hey, how you doing? Having a good time? Good. Do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We need you to do those three things. One, two, three. Just those three things. And we would greatly appreciate that. Actually, do a fourth. Do a fourth. Can you listen to us if you're not already listening to us and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or podcast service you are currently tuned in on? Those four things. That's all we ask. Just the four things. One, two, three, four. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Avery.
Okay. Our next story is from GamesIndustry.biz. This is from Brendan Sinclair. Kotick blames scandals on a very aggressive labor movement. So I woke up on like a fucking Tuesday to a Variety article with Bobby Kotick's face on top of it, where he goes on to have like his like, oh, corporate CEO, a misunderstood moment. It is
Mhm.
probably the biggest piece of bullshit I've ever read in my entire life. And I'm like, I kind of think worse on Variety as a publication going forward because like there's absolutely no pushback with anything this man says. He's just allowed to just fucking he's just allowed to fucking like shoot off the hip uh shit that like any PR company, anyone in PR would say. Well, actually, their Activision's PR person is pretty much signed at the hip at being probably not the best at like not sounding insane. So this is not par for the course. But long story short, he blames a lot of Activision's troubles not on bad things. Like one of the things he says is that hey, all the workplace sexual harassment stuff, all that shit that was reported, we investigated that shit and we found nothing. But we did find there was a lot of union involvement to try and labor movements that were trying to make Activision look bad as a company. And that's why we're seeing all this bad press about us. We are fine. We are good. And I'm a great boss.
Bro.
I've never been like I want to make this clear. I've hated Bobby Kotick since I want to say Call of Modern Warfare 2 when that entire Vincent Pella situation happened and it became very clear what type of corporate overlord he was, that if he can't like monetize the game indefinitely and get it out year after year after year, then he doesn't want a game. He doesn't want those games made. And as a direct result, a lot of good Activision titles just got fucking ground to the dust. The shit that happened. I've hated this man since then. So it's like it's one of the core reasons I hate this man. It's one of the reasons I don't play Call of Duty games at launch anymore. Beyond not giving a shit about the multiplayer, it's just like I don't feel comfortable with a lot of Activision, specifically Activision business practices going forward.
Right.
There is a little hypocrisy because I didn't have any problems with Blizzard games, but to be fair to myself, when I hated Call of Duty at the time, Bobby Kotick at that time was really vocal about not liking him. I didn't know Activision Blizzard was a thing, so that's on me. That's on me. But yeah, it's this interview just is like pouring kerosene on like a bonfire and then throwing firecrackers into it. Of my opinion, of this man is a piece of shit, and now I'm even more pissed that this man is not going to get any punishment, and that capitalism is going to guarantee that regardless of what's going to happen with his Xbox things, he's going to come out on top, and that is fucking bullshit.
Yeah. It sucks. I think him being such a horrible person to his core makes the whole idea of Microsoft essentially liberating this studio from this guy like more palatable. And it's like, I guess the cynical approach is, okay, is this man just saying this stuff with his full chest, trying to appear as horrible as a person as he can to help push the narrative forward that Activision needs to be bought by Microsoft, or is it just this man saying this stuff, this horrible stuff, just because it's a Tuesday morning and this is what he feels? And it's just like, either way, it's just like, man, this is just horrible. But like, yeah, man, I wouldn't even be like, yeah, I'd suggest you read the article. Don't even bother. It's just this man just saying some crap that's just not true. Like the fact that he is saying that, oh, their investigation that they ran, it's like, yeah, of course, it's an investigation that you covered. So of course you're not going to want to look like the bad guy. So yeah, sure, whatever you say doesn't have any real weight.
Also, I want to make a point about that investigation. Some of Bobby Kotick's money was tied up into there being nothing found, and that's one of the things that happened. Nothing was found. So he got
Boy.
Kotick is a piece of shit. Fuck Bobby Kotick. I hope Activision Blizzard King fucking burns to the ground. I think that entire corporation is fucking poisoned to the core, and that what needs to happen is it needs to be broken up, and those individual studios and games and franchises need to go to wherever they can to find good stewardship. Because based on another story, Xbox, I don't think Bobby is the only problem with them, and Xbox buying Activision Blizzard based on another story isn't indicative to me of, oh, we're gonna fix some shit.
Yeah.
Okay, Our next story is a Microsoft story. This is from VGC. This is from Andy Robinson. Microsoft could withdraw Activision from the UK to counter acquisition block, it's claimed. So yeah, Microsoft is still going hard in the paint for this CMA thing as they continue to get wins in pretty much every other country in the world who has no problem with this deal. But the CMA has still hold strong about, hey, we have a problem with this. And Activision, I believe in one of the early reports, they were like, we might have to pull a nuclear action and just like not publish Activision games in the UK. Uh, Activision was like, we're gonna pull out of the UK entirely. Microsoft was like, we might have to redefine our relationship with the UK in regards to how we release games. And essentially, this pretty much means that they're still gonna try and publish Activision games in the UK, but they're gonna do that bullshit that happened with Death Stranding, where like, remember, Death Stranding is a first-party PlayStation game. It was released on PC by 505 Games, which allowed them to then put Death Stranding in PC Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So what's essentially going to happen is that they're just going to make Activision Blizzard games are just not going to be on Game Pass. So big loss, I guess. I to Game Pass people, oh, that sucks. But
well, it won't be on Game Pass for the UK. It'll probably be on Game Pass everywhere else. It just won't be available to people in the UK.
We'll see. Because as far as
I mean, if they can't get Call of Duty on Game Pass, I think that's a big loss to them. So I would imagine they would do all that they can to like try to get.
I could be wrong. I generally assumed then like when they said they're going to probably not be on Game Pass, I thought it was more of a universal thing because as far as I'm aware of, there wasn't any regional differences between Game Pass. So that would mean they would have to then spin off their own essentially UK version of Game Pass. And so I just assumed that was what was going to happen. I could be 100% wrong. And the bigger thing is that they would which is. No, continue.
Okay. No, yeah, you could continue.
I literally nothing more to say. I like this doesn't like I'm not a Xbox like Game Pass user or a like main Xbox Power user, so this story doesn't really. I have nothing really to say about this, and as someone who's vehemently not anti Game Pass, but just doesn't see the appeal of Game Pass, missing out on Call of Duty doesn't really like. Missing out on a game on Game Pass that like I can just buy if I really wanted to buy that game doesn't really disappoint me. So this is very much a story. This is very much a story for like how do I say? This is very much an Xbox centric story that I have not much to say more than this, just to talk about.
I will say that like. I think it really sucks for the specific UK gamer who is a Xbox person who does like playing Call of Duty, and if this whole thing goes through and Microsoft distributes Call of Duty without Game Pass, so you have to pay $70 for it in the UK, like that would definitely suck for that gamer because it's like literally I could be saving whatever the difference is between my Game Pass subscription and $70, but I'm not because the CMA is just like, no, I don't think this is okay. But it's okay everywhere else. So it like it's not gonna affect me because PlayStation we don't get that deal. But like it just if everything goes through and everything is said and done and the UK is still on the opposing side of this and they don't get the same Game Pass deal as everyone else in the world. Like that just sucks and that just feels I would feel bad for those people who have to spend the extra money on this game.
This is okay. For my Xbox, for my haters out there, because I know you're there. I've seen the emails. Don't take offense to this. This is me just going off the top of my head and how I actually perceive this. I'm not feeling bad for you because no one's taking away content from you. If you were a Call of Duty person and playing the Call of Duty, willing to pay for Call of Duty year after year after year after year,
it's not that no one's taking content away. It's the fact that they don't get to work on the same deal that the rest of the world potentially get to work on. And it's like
that I say I still don't feel anything. I still don't feel bad about that. I'm like, you're still gonna like I said, Call of Duty is still being posted in the UK. If you were truly fine with spending the $70 on the Call of Duty experience, then outside of missing this deal, nothing in your life has changed.
Other than you spend more money on this game than you would have to, because
you're not spending any more money than you would normally spend.
Yeah, I don't know. We just have different like.
Yeah, like I said, I vehemently am anti-subscription to begin with. So like,
right, exactly.
I'm very much pro ownership. So like, I don't see a world in which I don't see a world unless there's a dramatically different version of Call of Duty published that's just not on Game Pass, that a normal Call of Duty fan who can't get it on Game Pass would miss out on, if that makes sense.
So if it's like a different version of Call of Duty,
yeah,
on the game, okay,
yeah, then I'll be like, oh, I feel bad for you because that's fucked up. But like, I was going to buy if I didn't know about Xbox Game Pass and Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, and I was just gonna buy Call of Duty year after year after year, then like, no part of this has changed my life.
That's actually another thing. Like, I wonder if the marketing and like ad stuff will just look different in the UK because of if this goes through, absolutely, like Microsoft is going to advertise. Yeah, exactly. So
they can't because the PlayStation
show up. They can't.
Remember, PlayStation still has a marketing deal with Activision for Call of Duty. So even if they wanted to advertise Call of Duty in particular, it had a PlayStation logo on front of it and not an Xbox logo until that deal ends.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Sucks for Game Pass users in particular. Now, Game Pass users in the UK, yeah, this sucks because this is a game that you were expecting not to be able to pay for and get quote unquote for free, and now you won't be able to if this deal goes through as we see it, as I'm expecting it to go through. But for the average Call of Duty fan on Xbox, no, this doesn't change your life. Game Pass fans, I feel bad for you. And our last story is from Bloomberg. This is from Jason Schreier. Inside the making of Redfall, Xbox latest misfire. So Jason Schreier has been on his bullshit for the last couple of weeks, exposing actual deep exposés about video games and where they've gone, or where they fucked up. And we got one on Redfall shortly after his Naughty Dog piece. The Redfall one, there's not much to say out of the Redfall one because most of my assertions about what happened with this game are proven in this. The actual only interesting tidbits are that the internal dev teams wanted Microsoft to come in and cancel this game. Microsoft instead looked at this game and said, how do I parse this? One of the big pieces of the story is that the creative leads of this game were super bullish on it. They're like, we can do this. They had no idea what the fuck they were doing, though. I'm assuming that they took that bullshit to Microsoft, convinced Microsoft that regardless of how this game looks, because like if the game looked bad now, it had to have looked worse during this acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
They went to Microsoft and say, "Oh, don't worry, it's going to be a banger." And Microsoft took that and made it their like set piece closer, their big major Xbox releases things. So it's a very interesting thing in which it was very much a thing where the team working on this were like, we either want this game rebooted so we can actually make a good game, or
like a single player game.
Yeah, or we want this game gone. It'd be best if it's gone.
Yeah, man. Like this is just so unfortunate. Like my read on it was that like a lot of the early development, because it started in 2018. A lot of the early development was kind of tied into ZeniMax and Bethesda Softworks. So when Microsoft came in from after the acquisition, it seemed like it was too far gone in a way where Microsoft was like, all right, well, that's just going to be an L. We're going to focus on Starfield because that's earlier in development. So we can actually have a better say onto the game without wasting money with going backwards, I guess, since they would have to do that for Redfall because it was just, oh, you're muted.
the development pipelines of these games are incredibly weird. In that
Yeah.
we can say that this game was further in the line, so they couldn't have done anything. But remember, both of these games were supposed to come out last year.
That's true.
That's true. Like, there's no world in which Microsoft saw this game and then saw what was going to be Starfield and couldn't give both those teams the effort and energy in order to make those better experiences, if that makes sense.
Well, I think the issue was the whole ZeniMax
No,
relationship.
I'm not even talking about the ZeniMax race. I'm just talking about. I'm going back to the Phil Spencer interview a while ago when he's like, "Oh, we didn't do anything for Redfall, but we did do stuff for Starfield." And and I'm reading this, and I'm thinking about those two teams' development pipelines. Both these games supposed to come out last year. Like, I don't
think there was ever a reality where Starfield was going to come out last year. I think that was very bullish of them. I don't think they had any full intentions of releasing that game out, because that would have been.
I 100% think they had full intentions of that game coming out, considering how far away they threw that shot. This wasn't we haven't heard about this game's release date, and they announced it a couple months ago, and then got pushed. These were hey guys, big thing, 11/11/11, come tell 11/11. Like, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
But let's not hear that. Let's not talk about Starfield.
Yeah.
Back to the meat of Redfall. There's not much to say, truly. Like, I think everyone should check out Bloomberg, specifically this article, get the full bits of it, because there's a lot of interesting things in there. But yeah, it truly sucks to see Arcane. Also, the more interesting thing about this is a lot of the developers' bullishness, like the lead devs' bullishness, was based on the same bullshit that happened to BioWare. Where they had the BioWare magic will allow us to spend 9 years, to Naughty Dog to a certain extent, 9 years trying to make a good game and just have garbage for 9 years until we get to the last 33 months and suddenly we have a game of the year on our hands. Yeah. That's what they were operating on when they were making this game. Which, once again, if everyone in the team was looking at this game and was like, "Ooh, this game is not good, we should probably cancel it." I don't know how you were still that bullish.
Man. Yeah. And then there's also a quote where when this game was first being, I guess, explained to the other developers, the other developers kind of confused about the actual premise of this game. Some people were like, wait, this is just a multiplayer version of an Arcane game. Like, it just didn't have a good start, didn't have a good midpoint.
Yeah, to that point, we were everyone when we first saw the trailer was trying to figure out what this game was. I originally thought it was going to be a Left 4 Dead type of game. It was eventually clarified and things like, it's like more of a Far Cry. But then you saw guns and loots and like, is this more of a Borderlands kind of a thing? Apparently, they weren't sure what they were doing, because certain developers were like, "Hey man, it's a Borderlands type of game." Other developers were told, "Hey man, it's a Far Cry game." And while those games share the same DNA as shooters, they are very core different experiences. And it shows in this game's development about how all that panned out.
Man, it is. I mean, props to Jason Schreier for getting us this information so we get a better idea of what's happening in the studios. But man, it's just it's so sad to have to see this and have to just imagine the developers who are, trying to make games the best they can, and it's just they don't even know what they're making.
To that point, you just brought up an interesting point, is that Bethesda has apparently had a bad reputation as a studio to work for, just in general, and so they've had a really high turnover. So the team who made Prey, only less than about 30% of that team is still at that studio, and all of them, most of those people, when they had to start making Redfall, dipped, and they've been unable to keep a good a stable of developers working on this game consistently throughout its development, which will probably lead to a lot of its internal problems.
Right, which makes sense. If you have people to fix the bugs, then the bugs stay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is it's unfortunate. Looks like Redfall is said and done, and there will most likely not be a sequel of any sort for that game. So,
Fun
uh,
fact: PlayStation's worst game of this year, Forspoken, has more concurrent Steam players than Redfall.
it also has a DLC. Oh man! All right, well, that has been the gaming news for this week. Before we end the show, let us talk about the games we have been playing. I, as I said at the start of the show, been playing Street Fighter 6. I also been playing, of course, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'll just do a real quick recap of that, real quick. I have completed the first temple. This game is completely amazing. I am completely mind blown by the Wind Temple. I'm not giving any spoilers beyond that. That was a just great experience. I was very lost at one point, and then everything kind of clicked. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is cool!" And then the actual fight was dope. Um, oh, what's up, Paul? Uh, so Street Fighter 6. Let me backstory, okay? Because I played fighting games as a kid. Street Fighter was I was pretty decent in Street Fighter. Tekken was my bag, right? So I am a Tekken player at heart. So jumping into Street Fighter was very much so kind of confusing, but confusing in a way of okay, well, in my mind, these are how I do my combos. Street Fighter 6 combos don't really work like Tekken combos. It's a bit slower pace in a way. Um, Overall, I've played about maybe like 10 hours or so of Street Fighter, and I am really enjoying the game. For those who don't know, Street Fighter 6 is the latest Street Fighter game from Capcom. It has come with three modes. There's a World Tour mode, which is a third person over the shoulder kind of beat 'em up in the world of Street Fighter, where you're going to different cities and you're learning from the different characters in the roster, and they become your friends. You become their best friends. You get stuff from them, but they also they teach you their moves, and you can create this like custom character with a bunch of different moves from a bunch of different characters. So that's World Tour. Then they have the typical arcade mode, team battle, like the offline, like you know, player versus player stuff, right? Then they have the online mode, which is online player versus player. I did not do the online mode because I did not feel like getting my cheek clapped. So that's what didn't happen there. I did play the arcade mode. Um, I said all this because I have a very serious gripe with Street Fighter 6, and that is specifically in the character of DJ. Yes, my name is DJ, and there's a character named DJ in the game. He is a very old and classic character. He is a Jamaican character, and this man is voiced by an American actor. I'm not going to bother with his name, who's not Jamaican. Anyone who is from any place in the Caribbeans, you hear DJ speak, and you're like, who the hell is this man? Where the hell is this man from? Because it's not from Jamaica. It's not from any island that I know of. And it was completely embarrassing to hear this man speak in the way he did. And it really pissed me off. I was gonna have the conversation with Sean because Sean is also Jamaican, if you don't know. And it is just this man, the actor that played DJ had a beef patty on cocoa bread and was like, I am from the islands now. It was just completely just whatever. Okay. That's me ranting. Now to get back on the positive of the game. I have been playing with a couple of characters. I pretty much started with the new characters. So I played with Kimberly. She's really cool. She's really fast. Don't know how to use her, but she's cool. Um, I jumped to Menon, the French ballerina judo character. She's dope. She actually might become like one of my favorites. And then I switched over to Marisa, who is the to me she's the Street Fighter version of Marduk from Tekken. But she's like this. She's she's from Greece, right? Yeah,
Italy.
she's like a
No, yeah, Italy. Roman
yeah.
Coliseum.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. So she's like a gladiator, like strong woman. and her hair is styled in a helmet. She looks dope. Like her character design is really cool. I've been having fun just playing and learning with the different characters and just learning like the new systems of the game. It For me, it feels like in a way it's kind of hard for me. It kind of feels like they're almost Tekkenizing Street Fighter in the different like techs that you can do in terms of like counter and in terms of like well actually it's in a different conversation. But yeah, to me it kind of feels a little Tekken, which I enjoy because I love Tekken. So it's allowed me to learn the game a little better than I would have if it was like Street Fighter 5 or past Street Fighter, whatever. Overall, I'm really enjoying this game. If you are wondering if you should pick up Tekken or Tekken, if you're wondering if you should pick up Tekken, you definitely should pick up Tekken. But if you're wondering if you pick up Street Fighter 6 and you haven't played the past ones, I would say yes. I think this game does a very good job of teaching you how to play a game, teaching you how to counter specific things in the game, and also teach you how to do the different combos for the characters. So if you follow those tutorials, you'll be in a very good place once you're done with them. Just give it time. Like that's pretty much what you need to do for any fighting game. Is just give it time. So that's where I'm at with Street Fighter. Again, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's shaping to be my game of the year, man. That is just so good. But the year's not over, and we have a bunch of games that's gonna be out between now and then. So we'll see. We'll see. We have a person in the comments that says, "Yeah, that's bad." Are you referring to the Tekkenizing of Street Fighter? Because works for me. But yeah, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. You been playing anything, Avery?
Um, okay. I played a little Street Fighter, and
Okay.
then but mostly I finally finished Jedi Survivor, and then I'm
Mm,
mostly just trying to finish Forspoken and get that off my plate.
gotcha. Oh, so you did, but you got the DLC.
No,
Oh, just the main. Okay, gotcha.
I remember I played Forspoken. I got through like 10 hours of that game. I said it was garbage, and John was like, "Nah, it's alright," and kept playing it. And I just stopped talking about it because I didn't think it was a good game.
Okay. Yeah. So just to correct Paul in the chat, he was talking about the American accent on DJ. Yes, that is very horrible. It hurt my face,
As
my whole
someone
body.
who's had to deal with everyone with a dark skin complexion doing African accents post Black Panther, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Wakanda forever. Yeah, you got a point there.
Yeah,
Oh man.
you don't get to get mad at this dude just getting a job and being hired for it if y'all weren't in the streets when I was saying, "Yo, man, these Black Panther accents are problematic," and you're like, "Nah, man, that's what Africans sound like." Motherfucker, this is how most Jamaican people sound like to non-Jamaicans. You just have to deal with it.
Oh man. Yeah, man, that broke my brain. Cause like it was weird because during the promo stuff, anytime he's on screen, he says something like, "All right, that's fine" or whatever. But then like playing the arcade mode and like because you go through like their different stories, whatever. I was like, wait, this sounds like a different person. Like, what is this? Oh, jeez. So yeah, you know what? Before we end this, Eric, what are you looking forward to in this year, gaming
Uh,
wise?
fucking Final Fantasy. That's all I care
Okay.
about right now. And
Okay.
then once I'm done, like I'm going to play and beat Street Fighter, or at least a single player mode eventually. But like
Mm,
I think I've indicated a lot on this podcast, I'm not a multiplayer guy. You're never gonna see me online fucking ranking. You're never gonna see me fucking playing you guys online. I don't really have any fun doing that.
yeah.
But I think its single player mode looks promising enough as a thing for me to sink my teeth into. I just like literally, I played. I had to go to work. It
Mm,
like I only knew that I pre-ordered it and only realized that I pre-ordered it when Sean was in the chat being like, "Oh man, it's Street Fighter." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I had a pre-order. Let me try it out." And I realized, "Oh yeah, I have to go to work tomorrow." So like I couldn't even
hmm
really enjoy it. I literally just had enough time to build a character and just like do with that. But yeah, and
Yeah.
then I'm just at this point. Before then, I'm just doing my backlog. And to people questioning whether I will play Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, I've indicated this to DJ. When I eventually actually beat Breath of the Wild, sure, maybe I'll play Tears of the Kingdom. Like, but I'm still in the point where, like, despite all of its rave reviews and people saying it's the game of the year, I'm like, this game still doesn't look good to me. So, like, I'm not in a rush to play it.
Mm. I will say, in terms of it looking good, like it it hasn't it hasn't changed with what it looks like, but I think it does a good job of using its art style to do like really really cool things, and like pretty much doing the best it can with what it got. But it's just like there's a moment in the Wind Temple that I was just like, hey, Nintendo, you just did a thing, man. That is insane. That is so insane. But yeah. Um yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. I think Final Fantasy 16 is gonna be a big one for us at least because we're all gonna be playing it. All of us except for Jordan because he has the X-Blade. I'm joking.
No, no, I'm gonna throw some shade at Jordan right now. He made a comment about how he hasn't like, oh, he just play it. Like, if you're super interested in it, and like, don't wait for it to come to Xbox. Just play it. You own multiple consoles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I, I don't even know if he's a Final Fantasy person now I think about it, but
I don't know either. The only thing I've ever
yeah,
heard of him indicate about Final Fantasy is when they had that Power Wash Simulator DLC, and he's
yeah,
like, "Oh man, this is the closest that I'm going to get to play
yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 Remake." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you own a PlayStation. Just play it there. Fuck, it's cheaper on PlayStation now anyway."
Exactly. Oh man. All right. Well, that's it for us, guys. And gals and days. Everyone's included. Um, yeah. This has been an episode of Press X Star Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. Don't forget, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And the fourth thing you can do, brought it back. You can, if you're listening, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or podcast services you're currently tuned in on. We thank you for joining us, having a good time with us, talking with us. Thanks, Paul. Yeah. Thank you, Avery. Thank you for being here.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, dang me for doing what? I've done absolutely nothing.
I mean, you handled like 80% of the news. I would thank Sean, but he's not here.
That's Sean's fault. He knows what he did. And what he did was make us move this podcast to 3 o'clock and then make plans that would coincide with this podcast at around 3 o'clock. It happens.
You're right, it does happen. And you know what will be happening? Us next week, right here, an hour from now, 3 p.m., whatever. Check it out. All right, guys. Take care.